Welcome to another episode of Resilient Riches. We have an incredible guest for you, one of my mentors, one of the first people that really have catapulted me into success and has really taught me a lot of things about life. And that's really what we want to bring on today. Philanthropist, serial entrepreneur, tech entrepreneur, built multiple businesses, sold many, many businesses, has many businesses that he started that have failed and crashed and burned and thrown money right into the garbage. So a combination of the two of ultra success and also understanding when to quit, philanthropist on the most, and right now working on the ground with families in Israel and helping their families. Eyal Yechezkell, it's an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to finally have you. I've been chasing you for a long time. I feel like I got Elon Musk here.
Oh, he told me that he said no right at the beginning.
He called me over the summer to tell me that he's starting a podcast. It was very exciting to hear. There's no better person to go ahead and start something like this. It was very exciting. I said no, obviously. My usual answer. He knows every time he calls me, like, it's no first, but then it's like
it's like any of my kids. Anything they want.
That's how my kids grew up. Also,
yeah, it's automatic.
No, yes. It's a couple of no's and then a yes. And then we got sort of out of the sea of people in Washington during the rally that was there. I see Yair, and he's like, you got to come on. And I'm like, you know what? You convinced me. Not only, I'm actually coming into the city. We're not even doing it over Zoom.
Task.
This is the real deal. I'm actually in studio.
He actually didn't want to. He didn't want to come in. He didn't want to come in. He says, "No, I'll do virtual." I go, and then I text him like a few hours later. I was like, "What if I pay for your toll?" And he was like, "All right, fine, I'll come in."
And that's not cheap anymore. That toll is not cheap.
To me, obviously, knowing Yair for many years and seeing his trajectory is. Actually, being a part of this is great. It feels so good to see how much you've accomplished over the last few years, and what great is what an achievement to work with family. Yeah. Also, to work with you is probably so fulfilling.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's really inspirational. I love it. So I'm like, you're going to be here. This kid, I still see him as the kid. He is a kid. So to be here and be a part of this, I'm touched.
But I don't know if Yair ever told you, but because of the transactions that he had with you, is one of the main reasons that I joined in the first place. I was thinking at that time, if Yair can convince Eyal, then there must be something going on here. Yeah. That woke me up a little bit, because now you're seeing something. I mean, something real.
So this was, and it wasn't an easy transaction.
No, you had to chase you for a long time.
He chased me for a long time.
A lot of not sleeping. I remember. I was like, I'm going to keep training him just to get this piece of business, and it's worth it. I don't even care if he comes there and doesn't come. He cannot pay me. I don't care.
It's It was. I knew from the beginning, but I had to push him a little bit to show me that
his dues.
To show me that he was ready. I knew that he will succeed. I knew because he had all the qualities, and I've seen it over the years, but I needed to push him so he can keep showing me, the answer was, like when you meet someone for the first time and like I knew we're going to work together, right?
He's got to work for it.
He's
got to work for it.
I had to make sure that he has got everything, everything squared and everything, the way it's supposed to be. Give me all the right answers. And he went, he did his homework. He came back. Everything I threw at him, he was, he came back, he was ready. And here we are today.
Cool. And before we get started, we're all wearing these necklaces. All came from confidence of Eyal Yechezkell, because at the rally, Eyal had them. He gave it to me. Then all of a sudden, now Elon Musk is wearing it. So Eyal was wearing it first. Eyal was the first one.
I don't know about first, but we were, she got it through a friend in Israel unfortunately, when the war started. And so we actually, she was selling them so we can collect some donations, and she does a lot of good work. She's the philanthropy side of the family. She's the one that it's funny because I sit on a couple of different sort of boards. One on the Israeli American Council of our local JCC, which is one of the largest JCCs in the country. And it's always funny because I always say that I show up and I just talk a little bit and sit on these boards and councils, but she's the one that actually rolls up her sleeves and does the real philanthropy.
Yeah, she's the macro
one that does
versus
all
the
events. Yeah, she's the one that really puts in the time and the effort.
Well, that's why you complement each other.
Yes,
somebody's got to do the work.
She does the hard work.
Yeah.
I just show up and make I guess the family look okay, but she's really the one behind the scenes doing all the hard work when it comes to anything, especially the Jewish philanthropy side that we do a lot with these days.
It's Jewish Israel now. The Jewish Israeli is just basically become into one. So it's just Jewish philanthropy. It used to be Israel advocacy, and Jewish advocacy was something different because everybody advocated for the Jews. But now it's all kind of pooled into one thing. The people who were anti-Semites just used the ex-Nazis out there used anti-Semitic, called it anti-Zionist, and then now all of a sudden it became popular. They can finally really speak their mind. Now they're saying anti-Zionist.
But I have to say
anti-Semitic.
I have to say also, like, we have a lot of non-Jewish clients and non-Jewish friends that we have, and people have said to me, like, they've come up to me, they're quiet, they're not loud like the Palestinians are, but they say it's amazing how much unity there is and how much, the Jewish people help each other, like Englewood Tenafly. I mean, it's been amazing. There's some people there that have been amazing. We were there a couple of weeks ago. We took over 4 duffels with us. Our suitcases were mostly filled with clothing, winter clothing for the refugees in the hotels. But it's amazing how just, and it's noticed. It's noticeable. It's not maybe as loud and as publicized as some of the rallies and nonsense that goes on, but people have noticed. People come up to me, they'll tap me on the shoulder, say, we support you, There's a lot more support than people realize.
I get that a lot too. I mean, I think that, we work with a lot of people, and I think that I think this time around, I mean, there's obviously been other conflicts, right, over the years. I think this time and the massacre that, we saw, sort of everybody, the whole world saw.
It broke our heart. It broke our heart.
And I think the people, again, like you said, that are non-Jews, that weren't really up to speed on everything that's going on there. And when we used to talk, I have friends, I grew up in South Florida, right, in Miami area. And we always used to talk about that stuff. And they're like, yeah, but, the conflict, you guys, we hear that Israel is occupying, the Palestinians and all that stuff. And we never really got into it a whole lot because there was nothing really to talk about, because they had that sort of sense of, there's 2 sides to this and maybe both of you are wrong, right? Now they're calling me up and saying, we get it. We understand what you've been saying all this time, that there maybe wasn't a partner to make peace with, right? That the agenda here was really the destruction. And what really saddens me is that, and when I talk to my friends, and we grew up in sort of, just like here in New York City, it's a melting pot, right? I mean, we were, I played soccer, for many years, and I was on teams where there were people from all over the world. And that was the beauty of the United States. A lot of us were immigrants, right? It was a sort of a game more for the immigrants. Now maybe a lot of young
we're immigrants too. You know that we're immigrants.
So
from Canada.
Oh,
not a hard
I knew that. I forgot that. I knew.
Still immigrants.
So yeah. So there was like we never. I mean, like I went over their houses for Christmas. They came for Hanukkah, let's say, and other holidays. We always got along. There was never an issue. We never felt. I certainly grew up in Florida. Never sensed that sort of anti-Semitism, but it's sort of surfaced now. And it's so sad that they're shocked. They're like, I can't believe that this thing is going on now. And that's the scary part, right? Is that it feels like it's an upside down world. It's like unbelievable what's happening, and it's very, very hard to see. It really makes me sad these days that a lot of people, definitely on college campuses, right, and even in our communities, right. I mean, we've seen some of the rallies around us in Jersey and here in New York. To see people that you're like, what are they seeing? Are they seeing something totally different than we're seeing? Seems like it's about right and wrong, and you're like, wait, you don't see that? Cheering for the destruction or the genocide of the Jewish people is a wrong thing. When did it become okay? So it just drives me, again, obviously personally, as you said before, the Jewish philanthropy side. to be even more involved, more than ever. It's something that I've been involved with for many, many years, especially on the advocacy side. Part of the Israeli American Council, we had a big push with this program called, used to be called IAC Act. And it was really about getting people involved with social media and fighting BDS, right? And it was a parent, basically, and their kids, parents and kids, that in different IAC regions that we had. And I did this program with my son. We used to meet at JCC weekly. And this was about 7 years ago. We learned, like, they taught us that there was this big problem on college campuses. So I've known about this for many, many years. And I've been doing a lot of work through the IAC about this topic with BDS, and knew about all these organizations like the Students for Justice for Palestine. And they had this BDS week for many, many years, and they were slowly gaining momentum all these years. And we were talking about it, but everybody always used to say, it's not a big problem.
It's only Roger Waters.
Yeah. But you know what happened? It seems that a lot of what I call the privileged kids that ended up at these, especially Ivy League universities, that message got through to them somehow. So now we're dealing with these kids that maybe they don't even know all the facts, but maybe it's cool to go out there.
I don't think they know any of the facts.
And so but it's cool out there, right? To go out there and chant from the river to the sea.
And it's an interesting thing what you say.
Catchy. It is very catchy.
Did they bring it with them? Like you made a good point. But did they bring it with them from where their houses were, or did they find it there with some of these professors? That's it.
Yeah, I think today it started even earlier, even in high school. And again, because I've been sort of involved with this for many, many years, right? Through the Israeli American Council, we've done a lot of work with that. More about the BDS, but it obviously, and that's what we've been saying for years. BDS is really anti-Semitism.
Sure,
it's not just boycotting Israel, right? It's not just about being anti-Israel, or the policies that you think Israel has. It's really about anti-Semitism, and we see it today. We see that it's not just about the conflict; it's more than that. But I think it starts early. I think it obviously continues in colleges, and I think what they've done a good job of, these universities, organizations, is sort of indoctrinating these individuals. As soon as they come in,
absolutely,
you have to take a side. Why don't you just let them be? Why don't you just let them make their own opinion, let them make their own decisions, give them the facts and let them decide on their own. They sort of make it, if you are for the sort of oppressed people, right? And then you have to be on that side. This is
if you're not pro Palestine, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're this, you're all these things.
They're doing it with other things, right?
Absolutely.
It's not just,
they're pooling them. They're
pulling them as soon as you come in, and they're telling you, yes, this is what you have to be, anti-establishment, anti-everything, Meanwhile, these are privileged kids that, came from what I call cocoons all over, the United States, that had everything handed to them. And they're always looking for some cause to get behind, and this is a very easy one to get behind.
So the universities have a lot of the main, let's say, law practices, the big law. They've said, okay, if you're going to be part of this, we're not going to hire you. If we're going to do this, we're not going to hire you. If you're going to be part of it, you're out. You're an entrepreneur. You've run businesses your entire life. Do you find that these people will go into the entrepreneurial route, and do you think that they'll be successful? I mean, if they say, "Oh well, I don't want to work for the establishment. I'm going to go work for myself." What do you think is going to happen with them at that point? Do you think they're going to lead to the entrepreneurial route and try to create businesses? And now we're going to have a lot of small businesses that are going to be focused on anti-Semitism. What do you think the next stage is after they graduate college? Where are they going to go?
Personally, I think a lot of them are not maybe gravitate towards the entrepreneurial sort of track. I think that they're all about maybe more about redistribution and maybe lead more on the socialist path. not the entrepreneurial part, path. So I actually think that's another thing that I think they're teaching them at these fine institutions, right? That the capitalism is evil, the entrepreneur, and going on your own, trying to make a business,
these people don't have the strength of character to go on their own. These are people that are easily swayed by nonsense opinions based on facts. These are not people that can pull up their sleeves and get into the muck. So what are they going to open up a business?
What are they going to do when they have $250,000? Harvard, $800,000, let's say $400,000 of debt, and nobody wants to hire them? What's going to happen?
Listen, they're probably going to be looking for a bailout. They're probably going to, and we see it happening now. They're probably going to say, hey, we have all this money, we paid for this fine education. Now nobody even wants to hire us. But again, I think it was Dave Portnoy from Barstools. He saw the testimony, I think it was yesterday or the day before, of the presidents of Harvard, UPenn, and Cornell, in Congress. And he said, I'm not hiring any of these students in these universities because these presidents couldn't, and they were smirking, and they couldn't actually say that, chanting, genocide, for Jews is a bad thing unless there was actual conduct. So you're saying you want actually to hurt, unless a Jewish student gets hurt, that's when you will actually take action.
Well, you saw the Congress. Somebody was in front of the Congress, president of Harvard, and they kept pushing her. Do you say that this is genocide? This is against the moral principles of? I don't know. It depends. What?
No, it doesn't depend.
And what about all the female mutilation and everything that's going on? What happened to all the feminists? To me, they've lost, like the UN. They've lost all credibility now. All credibility.
It's very, very sad. So what's happening?
So where do you see your philanthropy going to the next stage? I mean, now it's obviously you're taking action, but what do you think people that are listening and the business owners, especially the business owner community, and people who are in your world, the tech entrepreneurs, where do you see the philanthropy that they need to do, or the giving back that they need to do, or the next stage? What is the action for them? Like, what is the solution to this? And how do you combat it? How do you clean it? How do you fix it? A friend of mine was saying, he's like, the world's a mess. I go, yeah, but some people need to take a broom and a shovel, and I'm going to be one of those people. And you're always going to be one of those people. So what is your broom and shovel?
First, I think it starts with, again, I'm involved with, I always think that you should start local. I think if you take care of your own community and we take care of our own communities, we'll be in good shape. Meaning, I chose to be a part of my local, Jewish organization. So working with Federation, the Jewish Federation of Northern New Jersey. I'm on the board of the local JCC. I am on the Israeli American Council in New Jersey. And what we're trying to do is, again, bring programs that educate, especially the next generation, to have them understand how important the state of Israel is. And we do that obviously through different programs. Like, for instance, we have a Eitanim program where a lot of professionals from the startup world come and actually mentor the next generation. I think that's something where you can start and do. I actually would love for you to do one of those sessions.
Always happy to.
Yeah, here in New York or in New Jersey. And that's something I think that's very important. I think we have to continue teaching our kids how important the state of Israel is, and make the connection between, and I work at that all the time, the Israeli American community and the Jewish American community, right? Because Israeli American community, again, you have ones that have been here for a long time, like me. I grew up here. I identify as an Israeli American, call it, right? But my kids are Jewish American. They were born in this country. And sometimes there's a sort of disconnect. But if anything, going through these times right now, if anything, we take away from it is that we're all together in this. We shouldn't be taking any, put any tags on ourselves and stuff like that. We should definitely join together and fight for the state of Israel together, right? All the philanthropy
makes no difference. Religious, non-religious, ultra-religious.
Yes, exactly.
Whatever. It doesn't make, and I think that's what everybody
when
felt
they want
like
to hurt us, they want to hurt all of us.
Doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't matter what your political views are. It doesn't matter, again, if you're born in Israel or you have relatives there. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're religious, non-religious, secular. It doesn't matter which shul you go to, which synagogue. If you go at all, who cares? At the end of the day, they want to hurt us all.
We had a very interesting podcast with Eli Beer, and he was saying there's a lot of people that are saying, oh, well, I'm not going to give now. I'm going to give later. I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to give later. He goes,
I heard that,
if you don't give now, then you will never give. Yep. This is the time. There might not be a later. And if we all don't give and we all don't do, and it's not necessarily on a monetary, it's really being a part of all of it is taking an action and doing stuff like that. Switching to your past and your history, can you tell us a little bit about your history, how you found your success, how you built yours, and then give some education to everybody else? Because that's what you're talking about. You're saying educating the next generation. There's a lot of people that don't want to work in corporate America that they say, and as we had Kendall Cross, Olympic gold medalist, on say, why not me? Which was an amazing thing. Olympic gold medalist. He said, I'm better than them. I can do it. And he said, why not me? That was his tagline. So tell us your background, how you got to where you are. It's not always easy for people to focus most of their time. And I know you don't work very many hours, but most of their time on philanthropy, also cold plunges.
I've adopted the 4-hour week from Tim Ferriss.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. I do put in the time, but not as intense as I was in my 20s and 30s, obviously.
Exactly.
Now in my late 40s, it's a little different. I'm more efficient with my time.
Very smart. Yes. How'd you get to that efficiency? Tell us your background.
Wow. But you talked about the kids and what they aspire to. I think I saw a stat the other day where in the U.S., I think most kids aspire to be social influencers or YouTube stars.
Yeah.
Versus like in China, I think the majority want to be astronauts. So I think we need to work on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think there needs to be. There's only two options.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with
everything's in the cloud. Everything there's something.
There's nothing wrong with.
There's nothing on Earth
aspiring to be. But again, I hope that at least for the next generation is the values, right? It doesn't matter what you want to be. I think is teaching them basically that it's okay to fail. You got to work hard. You got to put in the time. You know this. That's why I love your trajectory, right? Because you put in the hours, you put in the time, you worked hard to get to where you are today. All of this doesn't just happen overnight. And sometimes when you're on social media, you think that, if I could just put up a couple of, clips and, they're going to take off and I'm going to get 1 million likes, I'm going to make it. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes you have to put in hours, days, weeks, years, sometimes until it actually happens.
I remember an interview with like a rock star or something. All of a sudden, their music went like platinum or whatever, millions of views or whatever it was. He says, "How'd you become an overnight success?" What do you mean an overnight success? It took me 10 years to become an overnight success.
I think they said like Mr. Beast would put up on YouTube videos. I think for like a couple of years until he actually hit with one of them. So he's like the biggest, in YouTube entertainment now, or maybe I think the biggest on social media.
He's the biggest
YouTuber. His
YouTuber.
own products now, his own chocolate, his own everything.
He opened up a couple hundred restaurants overnight.
Yes.
And every single one of them was like lines around the block.
But the grind to get there, is I think a lot of the kids are missing. So
they don't see it. They think it's so easy. I see you like yesterday. You took you 10 minutes and wrote a song, and now you're making millions of dollars. Why not me?
So tell us your background.
So I started again. I graduated from school down in Florida Atlantic University with a finance degree. Came to New York City, not far away from where we are today, Lincoln Building, right over Grand Central Station, to basically work for a small firm in finance that had clients, high net worth individuals, basically had their wealth management arm, they had their brokerage arm, and then they had their what I guess back then was private placements, right? This is sort of that's how people were, small companies were raising funds through private placements. Yep. I actually, when I came in, I joined the brokerage arm of it and hated. I'm like, oh my God, I have to sell stocks to, individuals by meetings and phones. And they had a lot of clientele. A lot of it was not really sort of cold calling because they had a lot of good clients and it was just about getting them to invest more, right? I hated every minute of it. And then so I decided that I wanted, and I asked to be moved to the side of the private placements, where I basically learned and saw a lot of small companies raising $1 million plus, right, from high net worth individuals, and trying to execute on sort of their business plans, right? And most of them failed. A lot of them took in the money, but the ones that didn't fail are the ones that actually knew how to use their dollars. And I learned there a lot from these founders that you got to make sure that when you raise money, you actually do it as if it's your own, right? So it's like every dollar that goes out. I think today you have a lot of entrepreneurs that raise a lot of money, although I think that market has cooled down a little bit now. But when it's other people's money, that you maybe
much easier
to spend it on, fancy, offices and these nice offsites and, very, very fancy snacks at the office and all that stuff. And like, when we started, there were no snacks in the office. You had to go out to the local, to the corner bodega in New York City and get your own. Yeah, exactly. It's like it was too expensive. So, yeah, I mean, so I started there. The most success, every single one of them that we raised the money for failed, except like one that I can remember, which I loved. There were a couple of guys out of Long Island called Skinny Cow Ice Cream. It's still around, I think.
They're
big
still around.
Ice cream. Yes. I think we talked about this way back in the day.
Yes.
It's a story I think I told you a long time ago. And they raised, I think, like $1 million, and then they maybe raised another $1 million, and then they sold it. Weight Watchers picked them up. And actually recommended them as one of the desserts to have on the Weight Watchers diet. And back then it was huge, Weight Watchers. Sure. This is before internet, right? This is when
Points was.
I came to New York City, and the guy I worked for the guy I worked for did have a computer on his desk. There's another guy in the office that had only a phone. There was no computer.
And the card Rolodex, probably.
Yeah. And he was just making calls. Yeah. He didn't need it. He just didn't need the computer, right? I didn't like what I was doing in finance, and I partnered with a friend that I met, also Israeli-American friend that I met with in college. I actually, of all places, in public speaking class, I met him, and he had this idea of doing way back this is in the late 90s, 98, to do a comparison shopping engine of online where you actually search for different products from different websites. Now, back then, there weren't that many websites. There were a lot of these generic URLs, websites, furniture.com, pets.com. And we basically decided that we're going to build this comparison shopping engine. And we ended up starting that in late 99. There's a cool story about that if you want me to tell you.
We're here for you.
So the guy I worked for in this finance company used to read the New York Times business section all the time and all the classifieds. And he actually saw an ad that said, office for rent will actually take equity in an internet startup in exchange for the actual rent for this office space.
It's genius.
He gives it to me, I think, on a Thursday. I take the number, I call it. Some guy answers. It's very polite, I remember, and I introduce myself and I say, well, I'm working at that time. I was working with my partner, as I said, that I met in college with this comparison shopping engine, and we were working on the business plan. It wasn't even complete yet.
Were you still working at your current job? Or
I was working there, and the guy I was working in finance knew that this is what I wanted, and he actually said, you guys go ahead and start that, because he was all the rage back. I mean, internet companies started popping up. He's like, you do it, we'll invest in it. We'll raise you the money.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Exactly. So he was excited about it. He was a great guy. So I basically answered it, and they're like, yeah, sure. Why don't you come tomorrow morning? And I'm like, well, all right, I don't even have a business plan. So we ended up on my, I don't even know, it was a very, very slow modem. I had an actual computer on my apartment on the Upper East Side.
The AOL dial-up?
And yeah, dial-up service.
Uses up your telephone line.
I'm talking to my partner on the phone, and we finished the business plan. I think it was a PowerPoint presentation, and I had to go to Kinko's. I don't know if people, if you remember
Sure,
Kinko's, which is now UPS store, I think, they ended up buying all of them. And I printed a couple of copies of this business plan. I think I finished around like midnight or something like that. The next morning I show up. It's a beautiful brownstone on 50th between 1st and 2nd. And it's an old couple. The first floor used to be a media research company, and that's where he used to run his business. He sold it recently. The wife was a doctor, and later I discovered that she was a whistleblower too, and made a huge money from some settlement that happened because there was a drug company that she was involved with, and they did some non-kosher things, and she was the whistleblower. As
drug companies do.
So,
but even doctors back then made a ton of money anyway. It was not like today.
Oh yeah, and it turns
Canadian
out
doctors used to like to come down here and make some money because they couldn't make money up there.
Yeah. So this couple, turns out, are moving to Jerusalem, and they want someone to take the first floor, which is all set up like offices with a phone system, which was very expensive back then, and the doctor, the wife, has been investing a lot in internet stocks, and they have been hitting it out of the park because it was very easy. Everything has gone up, what was going up back then. And she's like, okay, this is great, but I need to get on the ground floor. So I want to invest in private companies. I'm willing to give up the ground floor because I got to get in real early with this internet companies because I don't want to, I think she bought Yahoo or whatever. It was 20. It went up to like 200 and something. Like, wait a second. Let me get in. Now, this is a different time. You couldn't get in.
It's a good thing going on.
The VCs.
You never told me this story.
Yeah, I know. You don't know this one. So we actually sit down. And they say, oh, yeah, we saw a couple of people, we met a couple of people yesterday, and we hit it off. And turns out he sold his company. He's writing a book. They have an apartment in Jerusalem. They want to spend a lot of time there. He's writing a book, which I actually still have. It's called God's Womb, about different religions, like Jerusalem, where it's a bunch of different religions coming out of the same city. Mm-hmm. I should read it at some point.
You never read it.
Never read it. These were the nicest couple, and we had a very good conversation about what we want to do with our internet shopping engine and how we want to link and give coupons and let people buy.
Well, it probably didn't hurt that you were Israeli too, and they're going to
exactly. So
right?
What are the chances, that my Irish American boss reads this, classified ad in the New York Times business section, which I didn't read any newspapers back then. I was like playing on the internet all day, and I show up and these guys are like living in Israel, and here is a Israeli American kid that shows up that has this internet idea, and they're like, okay, thank you very much for coming. We will get back to you because we met with a couple other ones, other people that are potential, investments for us that might take the space. And I'm like, okay. I go home Saturday night. I go out.
What do you think that space was worth, like on a rental? If you had to rent it, how much you think it would be?
Back then, several thousands for sure. It was beautiful first ground floor.
We wouldn't do it even.
It's by the way, with a garden in the back.
It's an area, beautiful area, 50th between 1st and 2nd. Gorgeous.
Beautiful. And I go party that night, with friends. I'm young. I think I was 24 years old in New York City and having fun. And the next morning, Sunday morning, I sleep in late. I don't even know when I got back home. I get this call. I think I had a flip phone, a StarTech flip phone, Motorola, and they call me on it. And we want you to, can you come in an hour? We want to talk to you. I'm like, sure, I jump out. I get ready. I go over there.
You're going with your partner or by yourself?
No. He's in Florida, by the way.
Ah.
He works with his parents' jewelry business.
Oh.
He's brilliant, loves the internet, very entrepreneurial. I think you got to meet him. Maybe.
Yeah, of course. Went for falafels.
It's great.
Did I meet him one time? I think we went on 6th Avenue. I think I met him one time.
So, and I go meet these guys, and they tell me, yeah, we want to give you the space, and I don't even have a structure. I haven't even put anything together. We have to they're like, oh yeah, and I said, well, yeah, I work with someone. I do a little bit of this. I help out. I do. I've helped startups, and I'm involved with that. We can draft up all the paperwork and stuff. So, yeah, to make a sort of long story short, we basically shook on it. It took a couple of weeks to get everything, sort of sorted out in terms of the paperwork.
Sure.
And we were house sitting the whole brownstone. They gave us the whole.
You could move in there. You could just move in upstairs.
Well, and we used to crash up there. They were okay with it. They were so nice. They really.
How much equity did you give them?
I don't even remember exactly how much equity we gave them, but we ended up buying everything back at some point.
Oh, really?
Because the trajectory back, they thought that within 6 months we would be public, because it seemed like that. It was moving so fast. They're like, no, that's not going to happen. And I think it was 2 years later. I think we moved out at 2+ years later. We moved into a bigger office. We needed a bigger office. And at that point,
what was the name of that company?
They kept the equity. Shoploop.
Shoploop. That was your first one.
Shoploop.com. It was supposed to be a comparison shopping engine.
How many people did you have?
We
so you left.
we left the
financial
maybe
firm.
about 10, 12 people. The whole office space could maybe hold about 10. We went over 10. It was a small first floor of a brownstone in Midtown, right? So, but then I called Itai as soon as I inked the deal. My business partner back then. I'm like, listen, you got to come to New York City. I just got us office space. And he's like he doesn't understand how hard it is.
Yeah,
to get
it's a real
office
deal.
space.
He's in Florida.
With a phone system.
He's in Florida.
For free.
Back then we used to kid around when you got equity or stock in a private company, it was basically most of them turned into wallpaper because
it was the Simpsons. It was the Simpsons.
So
it's here. Take some stock.
Basically, for wallpaper, I got this this office space in Midtown Manhattan. And I think it was a 5-year deal or something like that. But they ended up all the equity. We ended up giving him everything, but. At the end, it was unbelievable. And then he's like, well, I can come, but I still have to help my parents a little bit. I'm like, listen, you don't understand. You have to come now. We need to open this thing up. This is the real deal. We ended up raising about $110,000 for friends and family. Fast forward, that model completely failed. The whole internet bubble burst.
Yeah, that's true.
Complete failure. The companies we were supposed to link to, the pets.com, the furniture.coms, all went bankrupt. That I would never forget that bubble bursting. And but what we did learn is during that time we could actually buy very cheap online media. Back then it was only banners and email. And we could do a lot of email marketing and buy a lot of banners online. That a lot of the big companies, because the internet back then, there was a lot of people that said the internet will never last.
Sure.
Right? But we saw it happening. We saw that people were spending more and more time online. So we basically started, instead of doing this comparison shopping engine, we said, okay, let's sort of generate sales and leads for companies that are looking.
So did that ever work, the comparison shopping thing? Did you ever get it up and running?
We scrapped it completely.
How long did that happen? How long did that go for? How long did you struggle with it?
We never really got a chance to launch. We maybe got a few dozen people to start using the website, and we basically after a few months shut it down because the bubble bursting was such a traumatic event for consumer internet as well as Wall Street at that time, or the investing world, where people lost a lot because some people bought Yahoo at maybe $20 and it went to $200 or $300. I don't even remember how much, but a lot of people ended up buying at $200 and $300, and then it tanked to almost nothing. And if you had a .com attached to your name, you were it. Everybody wanted to invest in you. And then literally overnight.
So that was part of the problem. Like all you had to have is a .com, and people would throw money at you without any business plan, like maybe the shopping comparison site that you're getting free rent from, and money you could have raised up some VC money or something. All you had to do was show up basically, and they would throw money at you.
It was just like that. And then it felt like the next day, maybe it was a matter of weeks, where if you had a .com attached to your name, nobody wanted to talk to you. I mean, I remember we were banking at Chase, and I think I always used to kid that like they would make faces at me when I would walk into the branch because that we were like shoploop.com.
It reminds me.
We ended up changing the name of the company.
It reminds me a little bit of the banking crisis that happened. It's like all of a sudden, the banks are too big to fail, and they're walking around like there's something else, and then all of a sudden they crash, and now. I remember calling from Signature. You couldn't get them on the phone. Now they're calling you and begging you. Hey, we have FDIC insurance. Don't worry. It's all of a sudden it changes so rapidly when something like this happens.
You could be loved 1 second and you are, the devil. Literally a couple
the mortgage crisis, 2008. I mean, it's same thing.
So what happened? What happened after that?
Yeah. So
what's with the banners and the email campaigns?
Yeah. So now we're actually.
Also, you lost a lot of friends and family from that $110,000.
No. So
you rolled it.
Hold on.
Ooh.
We were very stingy with the dollars. We didn't use a lot of money, so we didn't get a chance because everything happened so fast. And we were just we maxed out our credit cards, Itai and I, and we just kept building. And then when we realized that we could buy cheap media,
we do not recommend to max out your credit cards. Just as a
but when you're an entrepreneur and you
and
want
single and 24,
yes,
with free rent.
Yeah, exactly. And you could basically live off a couple of slices of pizza, and it was 99 cents a slice was actually not something that's like, now it's like you see 99 cents, like, oh my God, it's 99 cents.
Yeah.
The slices were actually good. It was the real pizza for 99 cents. It wasn't
going to Joe's
stuff.
Pizzeria in Times Square in the abandoned church.
You could get a 99 cent slice for real, but you can live off of that. Yeah, we ended up being introduced to the world of companies that with an offline presence that wanted and saw the internet as a new marketing channel, right? So obviously TV, direct mail was very big back then. And the first companies that we started working with were the credit card companies. So credit card companies used to do a lot of their acquisition with direct mail, right? We always used to get this mail, get a free credit card.
You still get it all the time.
They're still very big. The thing that is every time you do a mailing, by the time you get all the results back, it takes about several months until everybody mails the stuff back. You don't know how much, you spend money on this campaign. Yeah, acquisition costs used to be several $100s, right? And then suddenly internet companies like ours, where we did acquisition for other companies on a cost per acquisition basis, right? So you only pay us if you actually signed up for the credit card, right? Suddenly their acquisition cost went down to $50, right? And we actually would send an email out or run a banner. Someone would click, apply. They would know within 24 hours if that person qualifies. So now we basically cut their acquisition cost, maybe by 80%, and they have the results within a day or two, right? Unbelievable. So,
and it's coming through you also.
Yeah, everything is tracked.
Everything is tracked.
The internet,
which companies were you marketing for?
We worked with Chase. There was an internet Visa card called Next Card way back in the day. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of Discover card. Blue from American Express card. I don't know if you remember that. That was a huge promotion. We did a lot with Blue American Express, and they were the big ones. And then after that, I think it was 2001 or 2, Netflix.
Yeah,
when they used to send DVDs out, not Netflix that was streaming. I tell my kids that Netflix started as a DVD service.
Have they heard of Blockbuster?
Yeah. So the beauty of it is that we basically were doing a lot of email marketing, right? And when we were doing email marketing, this is before canned spam compliance, meaning There were no unsubscribed lists. There were no compliance.
Harass people.
You would just.
It's probably because of you that they had to have that compliance.
We were one of the
it came into effect.
It was, and we actually, when Can Spam came into law, I think it was in 1 or 2. I don't remember exactly, 2001 or 2002. Obviously, you had to have an address on the bottom and an unsubscribe link. And actually,
of course.
But it didn't matter because the beauty of it was people were in AOL, and 50% of the people would open up the email. What a beautiful thing!
People didn't know about
the open rates. The open rates were so high
spam.
Because, people forget. Like, for instance, with an offer like Netflix, like you said, Blockbuster, right? So in the major cities, there was Blockbusters everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
But if you were in sort of middle America, in the middle of nowhere, right? You probably have to drive an hour maybe to a Blockbuster or a Walmart or something like that. And suddenly Netflix comes about, and you could actually have it sent to your home, 2 DVDs at a time, and watch movies. This was probably the most successful offer we ever ran. I think they gave away 15 days or 30 days free, and people were signing up like hotcakes. It was unbelievable.
What was the name of that company?
We actually, it was the same structure, but we changed it to Mobixi.
Okay.
We changed the name to Mobixi at that time, Next Web Media. We called it Next Web Media.
Oh, Next Web Media.
And then we hired more people, and we started doing,
So where is Itai during all this? Is he still in Florida helping his parents with his jewelry, or he's moved
No. He moved as soon as 2 weeks later, as soon as we inked the whole deal, and he moved to the he moved, lived with me in my little apartment. On the Upper East Side. I moved maybe about 6 months before that from Queens. I started in the basement in Queens, in the Forest Hills, and he lived with me. We actually had a young developer that was a relative of his that dropped out of high school. He's extremely successful these days. Lived with us. We were 3 of us. We rented an apartment after my lease was up on 94th between 1st and 2nd. And wasn't the greatest of neighborhoods back then. But it was a 4th floor walk up.
You had one of those.
I had a lot of fourth floor. I used to live in the basement with this girl who could never get married. Sad for obvious reasons, but.
You think the walk-ups are going to be fine? That's how it started.
That's what you start. So $1,100 a month.
You haven't heard the story about the actual. Not many people have heard the story about how we got the office space.
The office space story is amazing.
It's one of the best stories.
So
I think ever. It's pretty cool. What are the chances that?
Go share it. It's just
right. What are the chances?
Scott wants you to succeed.
Yeah, that's it.
So what happened after that? And then I know did you sell this company?
We kept growing. Right. And then we were so good at doing acquisitions for other companies, all on the
and you were making a percentage based off of
cost per acquisition. Right. So you got to understand back then the margins were unbelievable because these companies that a lot of them had offline presence or even some of the.
And just important to know what is unbelievable margins mean in the tech world, because unbelievable margins in food is very different than unbelievable margins in the tech world. So if you can give some specifics, that would just be helpful.
We could actually do acquisition to acquire a new customer, for instance, for American Express Blue Card. Let's say they would pay us $50. We could get that user as low as $5 or $10. So you're talking about
you're making like 10 times.
400, 500, 10 times. It depends, So it's like
because you're at the cutting edge. You're starting out. It's a growth and you're at the edge of technology.
Not only that,
nobody else is doing it.
You still have the population that are basically crapping on the internet. Like this is not the next thing. There's no way. They don't even want to advertise online. They're like, this is not what it's.
Sure.
This is not the future. This is not. There's articles now and there's still headlines that people pop up every once in a while. Show, the internet's a fad. It's going to go away. I've seen some of those. So. But we were in it. We saw, we would do.
You saw the power.
We were sending tens of thousands of emails, and half of the people were actually opening and clicking on all these different offers because they were so interested.
How you see that with tech back in the day is how I see the influencer market.
Yeah. Today,
that's how we see it. Yeah. And people are, the influencers don't have any control. This, and they'll pay them crazy fees. But the influencer market is enormous.
I agree. Definitely. And I think for everything, I mean, if it's financial services, e-commerce, brands, I mean, if you see the brands lately, everything has been being built. I think maybe some of the biggest acquisitions in consumer brands, I think, have been built using influencers over the last 5 to 10 years.
Absolutely.
And people don't realize. I think a lot of people don't realize.
Athletic Greens is just influencers.
I'm a sucker. I use all these things.
I'm the same thing as you, and I feel better that I do. I'm happy with it. How's your cold plunge been?
I know. I was working before I joined Yair. I was working for a hedge fund. We bought corporate bankruptcy claims. So he used to tell me nobody was doing it at the beginning, way before Madoff. And he used to come in and my PM used to say, come in the morning and have a stack of faxes of people wanting to sell their claims. Then after that, years later, you're like, it's got so competitive and it was crazy. But at the beginning, it was just process the business. You're just making money.
Margins today to that point. Yeah. Back then, huge margins. Now it's maybe more like sort of an agency. Successful companies in the space could do 100% margin, but I think it's probably more in like the 50 to even below.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's still great. It's still great business, but it's not like it was. This was. WWW was the wild, wild west back then. It was unbelievable. People didn't realize how profitable it was.
So what happened for that? Because we got a lot to go over. So what happened after that?
We just grew, and as we realized that we are very good at doing acquisition on acquisition cost basis, right, on a CPA basis for all these other companies, right? So we worked with a variety of different companies, credit card companies, Netflix, like subscription services, all those type of things. We decided we had an opportunity. It was in the late 2000s, maybe 2000. Yeah, I think it was 2006, 2007. That's when sort of mobile phones sort of started gaining some ground. And I'm talking about the Nokias and the SMS part of not smartphones. They're the traditional old phones. And we had a couple of clients that actually were doing a lot of when you got a phone and you wanted to feel like, oh, I'm cool, I would get a different ringtone, right? So we were working with suddenly these companies that were doing different ringtones, ringtone subscriptions. And we did very well with those companies. And I said, well, why not use the SMS platform at that time to create some games? And I came up with the idea of doing... Now, at that time, we're about 50 people, maybe, doing online acquisition and for other companies.
So you were already making profit on that, and you're
extremely profitable, growing, hiring,
and which I love that you do. And so you understand. In business school, they teach you you have your cash cow. If you want to do something else, you keep your cash cow. You don't just go, oh, I'm going to leave this on the side. No, you can test other things while you have one that's driving profit. It was honestly how Chipotle was made. He had something else that was bringing him money, and then he did Chipotle, and then slowly but surely Chipotle became bigger, and he started switching actually over from. And it's exactly what you were doing.
Yeah, and that you always want to keep the cash cow going, right? Make sure that if you could grow, keep growing at it. But understand that there's new trends. Understand if you got to have your pulse, on what's happening.
Nothing lasts forever. So there's going to be a market downtrend, and you need to have a replacement.
And it's funny you mentioned that because my experience has been in the internet world or ad tech world that I've been involved with, right, over the years. The basically cycles are so much faster because everything moves fast. So maybe in the old traditional world, like it could be 5 or 10 years and then you see a downturn. I mean, we would see models come and go within 12 to 18 months. So you got to move fast. But during those sort of, call it, 4 to 6, maybe 8 quarters, you can make a lot of money. Right. The revenues,
and I think that's what blue corporate America missed. They were used to the 5 to 10 year cycle.
Correct.
They don't understand how things change so rapidly. They weren't able to adapt themselves.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think that for us, so we saw that sort of world of SMS and people were actually texting each other. It was blowing up, and we said, look, I came up with the idea of, well, I don't want to do another ringtone service with different music and tones and all that stuff. Came up with the idea of doing this sort of game with sweepstakes called Predicto. I worked with the team. We hired some people to come in to help us sort of launch that product because it was a little different than what we were used to doing in terms of just doing the online acquisition and marketing. We needed to build a product. We needed to Actually, we worked with the phone companies because everything was being billed under their platform. So we signed deals with Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile at that time. They were the top four. Probably still are. I think some of them have merged.
Yeah.
But
Singular.
we actually launched several products of our own. And the good thing is that we knew how to market them online. So we knew how to get to the audiences in order to sign up for our own. So now we had our own products. So that was great. And that was extremely successful. We actually had a platform also where we did joint venture with MTV and VH1. We actually did a lot of the text to win. There's a bunch of reality shows, and we used to do the text to win at the end of the shows. Hey, you want to win this prize? Why don't you text this, code?
American Idol also? Were you?
We didn't do American Idol, but we did do the Deal or No Deal.
Oh, Deal or No Deal.
We did Deal or No Deal.
That's cool.
And we were actually, during that show as it was airing, we actually did the Deal or No Deal text to win type of game.
You know, Howie Mandel is Canadian.
Yeah.
I actually saw him.
I like that cat.
I actually saw him in Toronto like a couple of days before he moved to LA and launched his Hollywood career in a comedy club in downtown Toronto called Yechezkell. Remember seeing him? And we were rolling on the floor with this guy.
Great. He's great. Yeah, he's one of my favorites. But I mean, so that's that's basically how we got to and then we actually grew that company. I think at the height we had over 130 people.
Mm-hmm.
My business partner moved back to South Florida, got married, had kids. I stayed in New York City, then moved to New Jersey to suburbia.
You didn't need Itai to stay here and run all this.
No, so so we opened up the office and all the tech. He was more in the tech side. So he actually led the whole tech team down in South Florida. I stayed up here. We had about 50 people down there and about 80 plus, people here. And everything else was here. Accounting, marketing, creative, product development was all being run at the office here. So I managed the office here. We were flying back and forth. He was managing the tech over there. It was good. It worked out really nice. And then we ended up, we saw that sort of market beginning to turn. There was a downturn, and we ended up selling it to one of our largest competitors in the summer of 2010.
So the question I have for people who have built these companies, and we have a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs, we typically send this around to the business owner community. How did you know to sell, and how did you know to keep? When was that understanding that, hey, it's time for us to go, it's time for us to take a big windfall, get the cash? Or how did you know just, hey, let's keep funneling money?
Or you probably have certain indicators that you're looking at that once they start to turn down, it's not the market it was.
And what year was this?
So we sold in the summer of 2010. I think it was around August. Maybe we closed everything September. But by the end of that year, it was all done, right? But for us to see, there was still expansion in that space, but not in the US, right? So people were still, buying smartphones and SMSing and playing games and all those type of things, but it was happening more in the East and in Europe, right? We felt that the US was saturated, and we used and we loved, and I still till this day don't know why I gave it up, my BlackBerry.
Yeah,
and when you played with the BlackBerry and you saw the BlackBerry, you're like, it was sort of going towards the smartphone. You knew that at that time, these older sort of phones and SMS is not going to be the only platform that's going to be a way of communicating between people, right? So mobile was getting, and it was moving fast. So we realized that there was a window here that probably, and the majority of the revenues for us at that time was maybe 80-90% coming from those products versus the old business model of doing lead generation and sales. It just changed over time because it was so profitable.
And you adapted.
So we decided it was better. And we looked at mergers, and we did hire bankers. We thought we could actually sell the company. We went through a process of being on the West Coast and East Coast. We actually did get a couple of nice offers. We turned them down because it was a very, very long earnout and we were throwing off so much cash at that time, and said, why would we want to hand this over and wait for our equity to, on an earnout over a period of years where we could actually, knowing that this market is on a downturn, why don't we just try to sell it and we could cash out.
It's an interesting thing that you were able to see, one, the opportunity to come in, and also to see the opportunity to come out.
Yeah.
Because that's the hard part. There's a lot of visionaries out there that can see the future, but they also don't see the future when it comes to their own downfall.
And when you build something, it's hard. It's your baby, right? You build something.
I think that's the hardest part, is you have that emotional connection to it. You don't want to let it go.
Your team.
And what's going to be next? Like, what are you going to do next? Yeah. You have to redefine yourself.
That's another thing that people don't understand being an entrepreneur, is the time in between companies and how difficult that is. I think people don't talk about that emotional part. It's very, very hard. Like when we sold the company, and we had like a 2-year non-compete, we had a little carve out. So we were doing a couple of projects in that space, but technically we had a non-compete. We couldn't compete for at least 2 years. And it's difficult because you run a company with, let's say, 130 people or so, and you have a lot of different people on a daily basis that you communicate with. And overnight, suddenly, from like 500 emails in your inbox, you're down to 5.
And a couple of those are from your mother.
And all of these relationships that you had, like, you still have them, right? But they're business relationships. So you keep up with people which become your friends that own other companies, because you're doing marketing with them and you're doing product development with them and you use it. And suddenly it all like disappears. And it's okay in the beginning. It's great. The first week, second week, you're like, oh, great. So I stayed at the gym longer and I ran faster and it was great because I was, I had more time for myself. And then 2 months later, you're losing it. You're like, oh my God, I got to do something. This is crazy. I can't keep up. I can't keep
And it's not like you can go and apply for a job, because you can't work for somebody else.
Never. I know some people do that, but like me personally, I don't think I could ever. I always kid and say my biggest driver when I speak to young entrepreneurs, I said, if you want to be master of your own domain, which I take a lot of my philosophy from Seinfeld episodes.
Yeah.
Master of your own domain.
Sure. Absolutely.
If you want to be master of your own domain, then you gotta work very, very hard. And if you ever get to experience that, like for me, there is no going back. I mean,
it's impossible. My father was a CPA, so he had his own business for many, many years, 20, 25 years. Hated his partner the whole way along. At the end, they closed it up, and he ended up going to work as a controller for like the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. He hated it. He said these guys are thieves. They're trying to steal, and he wants to blow the whistle. And then he, it's just he hated it.
So difficult. I think it's very hard to. It was my worst nightmare, and I was thinking about that at some point. I mean, can I do it again? Can I do it again? And I don't think I could ever work for someone. It's a very, very difficult time you go through, but
it gets lonely. So you sell the company. You're lonely. Your wife's kicking your ass all day. You got kids. You got everything. What got you back to, hey, let me get back into it? I mean, it sounds like you were good for retire. Like the dream of people is like, oh, you have all this money. And we know clients who are worth hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, and they're not happy. It's that same concept. It's like the action's there. And okay, now you
because after a while, it's just a number in the account.
It doesn't make a difference.
It's just a number, whether it's an extra zero or not makes no difference, because your lifestyle doesn't change. And you have enough money for yourself.
Yeah. And our big thing is resilient riches. It's riches not just in terms of money. It's actually being able to continue to grow and to continue to build your success. So you made the money, you made the prestige, the fame, you changed the world. Because I remember you told me in your space, you were the largest in the country.
Yeah, that we had. It was great. Yeah,
it's amazing. So how did you reinvent yourself? How'd you reinvent yourself? Where'd you go from that? And then obviously philanthropy and that started coming.
This is around the time. Yeah, this is around the time where I joined the Israeli American Council. Because I had more time. And but to your point before, you work so hard and it's such a race for many years. So you make money, but you don't spend a lot of it because you're busy making it. And then suddenly you stop and you're like, okay, I don't really know how to spend money. I'm not that good at it.
Yeah.
right?
That's true.
That's what your wife is for.
Louis Vuitton.
Like
she's not even a big spender.
No, yeah.
No,
so she's not even yet. So she's not even into all of that. So
you got
like,
the house. The house is
you see, I always kid. Like some people know how to spend. Like I'm not really, like. Listen, it's easy. You could always walk into someone and just say, yeah, I'm just going to throw money at it, But some people know how to travel and how to spend it all the time. But at that point, I didn't know. I was so busy, preoccupied with growing the business and making. And then you're like, wait a second, I really don't know. And I took family vacations. I mean, we did. My kids were young back then and stuff. And I try to balance all of that a little bit. But yeah, so that's another thing. You sort of, I learned later in life, to know how to spend it a little bit. But that's another thing. You keep and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think you should feel. I think I always say to young entrepreneurs, don't feel bad. It's okay if you're grinding. It's okay if you're working hard. You'll have time to spend that, later on. Because if you have an opportunity,
I would say it's even more.
Go after it.
Hold on. This is Eyal. I was waiting for this line. If you have, continue.
No, you just attack. If there's an opportunity, you just got to run with it.
If there's food on the table.
If food's on the table, you better take it.
I've heard that from Yair. That you've said that.
That's his line. So one more time, if you could say that, because that's been a big part of it, and that's really it full circles because everything has been these micro moments in time that if you have to take it because they're going to go away. So what you said, and
if there's food on the table, take it. I mean, this is
take the biggest bite you can.
You have to take the biggest bite because sometimes we wait a lifetime for an opportunity.
Sometimes it never comes.
Yeah. So if you were one of the lucky ones and you were what I'll also say, you have to be in the water. So if you're in the water and the wave is coming, you better take that wave because there might not be another wave that's coming, right? So take the biggest bite that you can for as long as you can. And then worry about the rest of the stuff later. I used to tell you that
always. You said you found an opportunity, run with it, and that's all we did. And I said to my dad when he was coming in, I said, "Hey, there's an opportunity here. I see it. Nobody else is seeing this. Nobody else is talking about it. It's full open and." Now, I mean, we're in the 0.1% income.
People still don't see it. Like what we've done here, people still don't see it.
They're not even close.
Music to my ears.
They can't even understand. They can't even understand. They go, "Oh, he's dumb." It goes, "No, I'm very narrow. Oh, you should do this." Really? Because this is what we do. We're really, really good at it, and we're going to knock out everybody, and we blow everybody else away.
The only thing I was going to say before was, for me anyway, at least, like when you first started out and you're working with somebody else's money, I think you can sort of get used to that. Like you think, okay, can I spend this dollar? Can I do this? And that stays with you for the rest of your life. Like even when you have much more, still it's in the back of your mind.
Values, yes,
yeah, I don't want to spend that. Okay, I can spend that extra $10, but I don't want to.
Correct. So, but by the way, those investors, we raised $110,000. These are a lot of investors that basically invested a lot in these into their companies, and their portfolios were down, I think, like 80%. I think a year after the bubble, we ended up calling them and say, "Hey, revenues are starting to come in. Would you like to buy back the stock? We could give you back your principal." They all took it.
Really?
I mean, breaking even back then was like a major win.
And they probably felt like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
We had a handful of investors. So like, I think it was 10,000, 15, 20,000. I think the largest was maybe 25. So I think it was 7 or 8 of them. They all took the money back.
Because they probably thought it was a write-off. They were never going to see this anymore.
And, listen, at that point, I knew that it was going to be harder because we went into we figured out a way to make it, but we didn't know what was the end game at that time, right? So I figured money came back. Why not give it? If they wanted the opportunity to earn it, to take it back. Like, hey, you want to take it now? I have the money now. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's real.
Maybe there will be another bubble. 12. It was so much uncertainty in the marketplace that who are we to know what was going to happen? So it's like, hey, listen, the money is coming in. Do you want it? Yeah. Everybody took it,
nice.
So
you sold the company, you restarted. Now you're doing something else. Tell us what you're doing now, aside for the philanthropy, and then we have a little game. And then while you're telling us that, if there was 5 financial tips for people who you have gone through it, you're somebody that's always going to push and always going to drive. But for the people who are still going through it, or the people who have overcome it, what would be 5 financial tips that you would give them?
He already gave us one. You already gave us
that's
the main
one. So then we got four.
Okay,
all right, we got
4 to go.
We got 4 to go.
Told me ahead of time.
I don't need ahead of time. I wasn't prepared either. That's one thing. And then what would you say also your defining moment, the moment that you said, hey, I'm going to make it when things were tough and things were challenging. You said, I'm going to make it. I'm going to push through. What was that moment in your life?
We had you. No, but this was part of the company. We were, again, understand it. At some point, my life was the business. When you're young and that's all you do. I mean, I was living in New York City, but in my mid-20s, it was all about making it. We had such a, I personally, but when I say we, because Itai, my business partner, was the same way. We had that drive, and that's what made us a good team, is that we wanted to succeed under all circumstances. So we did have, in that business of doing the online acquisitions for other companies and generating a lot of leads and sales for other companies, we did hit a hard time at some point, and we thought that this thing will not continue, and we might have to let some people go, and it was a very, very difficult time. But we powered through it. I remember that the first time where I actually had to think about firing someone, I threw up.
It's amazing.
I threw up. It's so difficult, because at that time, it was a small company, so you get to know the person on an individual basis. It wasn't going to change their world too much, but at the end, it would have been okay. But it was very difficult. So for me, pushing through and rolling up your sleeves when during the hard times are the ones that I always remember. That we pushed through it and we got out of it. And sort of.
Do you have other very hard times in your life that the same thing that you were able to pull from the strength to get through these moments?
When we started, my mom also passed away. It was a very difficult time to go through. Again, my business partner was very great at supporting me, and at that time I called my fiance. She was sort of my girlfriend, my wife.
Special
today,
girlfriend.
to be there for me. It was a very, very difficult time. I mean, she got to see me have my own company, but not really the success, that came, years later. And it was a very, very difficult time. It wasn't easy. She was in Florida.
I'm sure she always knew that you would be that success. I'm sure she always knew it.
Yeah, but that was one that was very difficult to, and it was, breast cancer. It was, she battled it for many years. She was 53 when she passed away.
Beautiful testament to her legacy.
Yeah.
And your kids, I know that. All right, so we still got 4 tips, but while we're doing the 4 tips, we got one more game because I'm sorry, we're just going to keep kicking your ass. We got you here. I'm going to take advantage.
You could say ass. You
could say whatever you want. It's ours, and we got nothing to lose. So that's the big difference. Someone's like, "Well, how are you going to make money on it?" I go, "What? Make money? What are you talking about? We have a great business. This isn't a moneymaker. We enjoy this. It's a beautiful thing. We're able to advocate. We're able to give inspiration. Sure. We're able to teach something that we've really been enjoying. So, you want to explain
You haven't done this with him yet? I'm shocked.
No. I've been waiting for this.
We're now behavioral financial analysts.
This is the one where he would ask me to play games, and I would definitely say no.
No. So right now I got you. So there's 52 values in the deck. You want to do it?
Sure. So as Yair was saying, 52 values in the deck. What we do this with all our clients, with behavioral financial advisors. I forgot what the A was for, but what we want to do, I could do that. The first step is to divide the pile in 2. There's 52 cards. If one pile is going to be what is your most important value, and what the other side could be what's not. It can be important, but not as important.
So core is 52 cards. Go through each one. Yeah, you pick through it, and you take.
Not just to divide the deck. And
you're done. Great game. No, so like if flexibility is important for you, put it in the key pile.
I got to do through all of them.
Yeah, all through. It's quick. It'll take you a year.
If
this is your core value, then keep it. If it's not, discard it.
These sound all great.
Yeah, but not your core. They're great, but they're not core.
What's the most important to you? And just whatever your first gut feel is, because this is just the start.
And while you're doing that, tell us the other 4 tips.
Oh, wow. I can't do 2 things at the same time. It's very, very
Really?
difficult.
You can't do 2 things at the same time? That's weird.
Yeah.
So what I'm really loving, and
this is you see, like, these are the things when we started and doing startups and stuff. Some of the stuff is very corporate to me.
Absolutely,
it's too corporate.
Okay, so then discard it.
Get discard. Just get out of it.
Discard.
Throw in the garbage.
Yeah.
No, I mean what I really love, and for our entrepreneurs and people who are starting businesses, and I'll just speak to them. What we've seen a lot is everybody wants to start their own business and they look to raise capital, but then all of a sudden they have this capital and they're spending money that they haven't spent. So we've gotten calls from people, oh, I'm $2.5 million in debt because I raised all this capital. What do I do? And I personally guaranteed a lot of it. It's like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. That was a big mistake. Or taking out huge amounts of giving away all the equity in the world because it's easy, or you do these safe notes because you saw it. Well,
we see also what you
saw it on YouTube.
What you did is maximize out your credit cards. We see that a lot.
Yeah. So that, and that's also something also to say is that sometimes taking loans for your business is better than giving out equity. It's really making the right decision when you're starting out your business and understanding your future cash flows, understanding how to build companies. So our advice is to not.
We're talking business only, right? Because these don't all,
they don't. It's your values.
It's your life.
It's your life.
But business only.
No, values, life values.
Oh, life values. Okay. I thought we were talking just about starting a business.
No, for you.
Okay, so I got to switch some of these.
I thought I explained it correctly.
I'm a very bad listener.
Clearly,
it's nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Nothing to do with me. Here, listen.
Yeah, it's not. It's nothing to do.
So what we recommend to clients is for them to understand what the options are, take courses, take classes, learn, talk to people, find mentors. There's a lot of places that you can find mentors and start understanding how to build it instead of just jumping in and leaving their job. What you did, which was so smart, was that you had one company, that's discard and that's keep.
No, I have to go through them again now.
Which one is this? Discard or keep?
Yeah, this is the discard, but this is on a personal level.
Oh, okay, fine. So keep going.
I might have to,
all right, you got to
some of them back.
You're going to throw them out anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
No.
So making sure that you're understanding what you're actually getting into before you leave your company, instead of just getting fed up and going, I hate it and I left, you're actually able to think about it.
No, but part of what we're talking
about. By the way, health, if you asked me, 20 years ago, like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. Values change.
That's part of my card. Health is my card.
Yes,
my last
definitely changed now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it like
I was just putting everything in the keep pile.
In my late 40s now, I
let him do what he wants.
But
one of the other things that's important with what you're saying here is to know how, you start up your own business, how hard it's going to be.
Yeah, and you got to be able to commit. You got to be able to commit time. You got to be able to commit.
It's going to be
energy.
tough. Don't think it's going to be like an easy thing. It's not going to. There's no easy solution. It's going to take a lot of grit and hard work, and it's going to be that 24 for us 6.
Yeah, right.
And when on that one day off, you're thinking about it.
Always.
So, garbage. All right, you got to get through these, and now cut this in half. Get to 15.
It's
a lot of work.
It's a very difficult exercise.
It's not so tough.
Very difficult exercise.
Wow.
Do you think Eyal only has white shirts and black sweatshirts?
Definitely.
It's blue.
It's blue. Sorry, blue.
Israel,
you went Israel. Very smart. Very smart. The Israel flag.
The tag.
Yeah. You're right. It's very not pro-Palestinian of you. So one thing that we did want to talk to you also about, we know how passionate you are about the IAC. We'd love to get involved in the IAC, and something that we do on the show is we give to your favorite charities, and I'm assuming the IAC right now for the important work that they're doing. So my dad and I are going to be giving you $5,000 for the IAC.
That's amazing.
And just
Thank
to help educate.
We're doing a lot of work, especially bringing the Israeli American, Jewish American communities, especially now, as we said,
Absolutely.
So important.
The big push is really also fighting anti-Semitism and a lot of the stuff that's happening today, on campuses. And I think we like it. We've started even earlier, with high school students, because I think we need to get them ready.
That's been your big thing, education. If you take the theme of what you're doing is education, but keep going. Don't stop.
Don't get distracted.
I'll move now. I'm excited. I want to thank you very much for actually being a part of that. And I know you've done a lot in the past as well, but it really means a lot, especially
absolutely.
now.
We're very happy to do it. Any other tips that you're getting from this podcast that you can give? I got a bunch.
Other tips? What do you mean?
One thing also, which I really liked, is Eyal broke down the difference between business management and business advisors and the tech side. He was able to actually understand that there was a delineation between if you are the person who's going out and building the business, and then there's people who are actually building the tech. So Eyal,
I don't know how many there are.
it's fine. Eyal was much more on the business management side versus the tech side. You're okay. So let's break these down to 15 because you're taking a long time.
Is it 15? I don't know.
No, it's gonna be more.
Listen, I've gone through, as you know, some of my own businesses, so I've experienced some of that.
Yeah.
Some of it's really tough.
10.
Like you don't know what you're going to do next.
10. Oh wow.
And
hard.
Like a lot of things that you've spoken about, you don't know what you're going to do next. What's going to be your next thing? Like
it's very challenging. Yeah, you had your time. I remember before you came into the business, you were hanging out at home watching movies, which is very consistent to your theme. But you weren't working much during the day. You were watching a lot of movies.
I did that on purpose.
What are you keeping or leaving?
No, keeping.
5 we need.
No, we're up to 10 now.
10. That's it.
All right. Garbage. All right, bring that down to 5.
I didn't read what the explanations are.
Don't worry about it.
So that's just what I
No, you don't really need to. Like, bring it down to 5. Top 5.
5. Wow.
Family, health.
Philanthropy today, very important.
Well, that's part of your not being able to spend. This is where you're able to give
exactly.
happiness.
You know, I've said over the last 60 days, you know, I'm just telling my partner today, we're working for donations, just to make donations. It feels like that, but that's okay. We're happy to be a part of it. Absolutely. I always say it's a privilege to be on the giving side, you know.
That's the number 2. I said that under the chuppah. May we always be on the right side of the giving trade.
Exactly.
One more, Eyal. One more card.
It gets hard, you know. Gets hard.
All right. So tell us your 5 and why those 5.
Wow. Family, health, philanthropy, happiness, and freedom.
Why?
You know, family is important. I think, you know, by the way, it wasn't easy as you build your business, you know, raising a family too at the same time. And, you know, I'm also thankful for my wife that always used to tell me, you better come when they're young at the JCC and they're doing, you know, that Friday night sing-along, you know, before, you know, Shabbat. You better show up. So I was forced. I didn't want to at times to leave the office. But I'm so thankful for that now that I got to be there. And one deal, she goes, you can work as many hours as you want, but if they have anything, starting from being at the early childhood center at the JCC all the way to high school, if they have something going on at school and you have to show up, you better show up.
That's amazing.
And then you can work 24/7. But on those days, and I've never missed.
Yeah, I remember.
And I love her for that, and I love that I ended up saying okay and doing it because
I'm sure the kids, you know, you have a relationship with their kids because of that.
For me, now looking back, it was unbelievable that I ended up doing that. So it's.
But your wife sounds like a very wise woman. Like she knew where to put her foot down.
Much smarter than me. I just show up, and when you show up, sometimes you just get.
But that's part of it, right? Who says that?
I tell my kids show up 5 minutes before. You got to show up.
You got to show up.
And another one is that you can throw it into those.
Just show up. That's 3.
Actually, my old CFO Eli Bakovsky taught me this. You don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just forget to ask. We do fundraising now for DIAC or for any organization that I'm involved with. I would say, it's very hard for people to ask for money, for a nonprofit. I say, well, just if you ask them, you'll be surprised. A lot of people do want to give.
Nobody's going to bite you.
Yeah,
nobody's going to bite you. There's nothing. You're not losing anything.
It's a small
amazing.
rejection. Yeah. So, family, health, philanthropy, happiness, and freedom.
All right. So we did family already. Talk to us about health.
Health. Listen, as I get older, man, I'm I still play soccer twice a week. Now it's down to 1 in the winter. And I had the operation, and several years ago.
All right.
That's another fun story. That's how I got to learn about Bitcoin when I was bedbound for 4 days. I read about Bitcoin and lucky enough to invest in it early enough. So health is very important. That's why I try to be as healthy as I can, because you start feeling. I felt it around the age of 45. My body, slowing down a little bit, stuff like that. So it's. Physical to me makes the emotional. It goes hand in hand. Absolutely. So when I am in good shape, emotionally, I'm in a better place. I'm a better father. I'm a better husband. I'm a better friend. I can do more philanthropy. I got more energy. So to me, again, the health part is, both physical and emotional.
For me, it's mental and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Philanthropy.
Yeah. This is something, again, I think maybe if you asked me again 20, 30 years ago, I was like, I don't, philanthropy. I wasn't raised in a home where there was a lot of that, by the way. It was more, my dad was a small business owner, was great. You got to meet him.
Yeah,
he's a character, but and he taught me a lot of the stuff that I actually learned, and I use a lot of his wisdom over the years. The street smarts, but that wasn't something that was taught at home, but I felt, especially,
I don't think it was such a big deal in those years. Like, it was not like people didn't have the huge disposable income. You're not making like these huge amounts of money like in the stock market and real estate. Like, you buy something and then they were selling it for 100 times later. People didn't have that kind of disposable income, because I know certainly with my grandmother, my parents, it was never, you give whatever, but it was not a thing, because they just didn't have that kind of money that came in.
I disagree with you. People don't make a lot of money. We happen to. I think we're a little biased, personally.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion. I think there's a big divide in the country, and I think also one thing is people are making a lot more income, but now they're able to buy eggs. Eggs haven't really raised that much, so it goes from 50 cents to $1, but your income went from $70,000 to $150,000. So, and we were talking to a lawyer, and Brian Goldstein was on, and he was saying when I first started, he was making 60, and now the starting salary for a lawyer is 120. So eggs really didn't make that big of a difference. So people didn't have, it wasn't so much disposable income, it was those items that we couldn't afford because it was a smaller percentage of your income. It's now a fraction of that, which has changed so much. But inflation is a killer.
But again, so I mean, really, what got me in is the Israeli American Council, because I felt when they approached me about joining that, as they were expanding from LA into other regions, and this was 9 years ago or so, to New York and New Jersey. And I got the call. I felt that there was an organization, because I was involved with Jewish, like the JCC and stuff like that. But having something that was, Israeli flavor and Jewish American flavor, it was like, it spoke volumes to me, and I connected immediately. So that's where I sort of started. And then, and that's where it's not just giving, philanthropy to me is not just giving money.
Getting involved.
It's actually rolling up your sleeves, is getting involved, right? And helping and mentoring and really doing a lot more than just writing a check. And I've learned that over the years. That's a good thing, and you need to do that.
The cafeteria just went back to kosher also at the JCC.
Yes,
just to let you know.
Yes, I know. So I'm aware of that.
Philanthropy.
They're great guys, by the way.
I don't know why it went off in the first place.
True.
Let's finish the last two.
Happiness. Wow. To me, this is what I guess maybe this is the Father speaking. This world is getting crazy, especially as we talked about earlier, about sort of being in this upside down world. And I want my kids to succeed, but most of all, I want them to be happy. So I'd rather they, we're talking about, making money, wealth preservation, right? And all that type of stuff. That's important.
Resilient
riches. And it's great. But I think if you're not happy, all of that, is meaningless, right? So I want as a father, I want my kids to be happy. And that's my mission, is
I think you want them to have the right perspective.
Yeah, that too.
What is the role of riches? What is the role of resilience? What is the role of all these things? Yeah. Not for it to overcome a person or your children, but to realize, okay, you want to have money, but it shouldn't take you over. It's not something that you should think about all the time, and because if that happens, then you won't be happy.
Yeah, listen, I see it. But my kids went through the whole COVID thing. I saw kids. I see that their mental state. Were in such a disarray, and so happiness today, I think, is so important. to me, at least, we didn't think about that. At that age, when I was growing up, I didn't think about those things. I think they think a lot about that, and it's sad that they need to think about it at such a young age. We just ran with things. We didn't put a lot of thought into things. And am I happy? Am I not happy? I don't even remember when I stopped to even ask myself. As I was going through college, as I was working hard, I was pushing. I don't think I ever stopped and said, "Are you happy or are you not?" But today it's a different world, and I want, to me, happiness is important. Now you have to be at a place, and for different people, it's different things, right? So I think that's something that's very, very important. It's not a given anymore, where it's just you have family. You're happy at work, and it's beyond that today,
Well, I think the flip side of what you're talking about is mental health. And, from our side, it's amazing how many people are on some kind of medication because that mental health aspect of it, they're not happy. So, as you say, when I was growing up, happiness, what word is that? I don't know what you're talking about. Ask my grandmother, she struggled in the Second World War. Are you happy? She wouldn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah. But we never discussed that.
And last one.
Yeah, freedom is, as I said before, it's my Seinfeld tagline, master of your own domain. I mean, to me, having freedom to do what I want, when I want, a lot of it has to do with the finances, right? I'll bring it back to resilient riches, right? So it's financial freedom allows you to do a lot of the stuff that you want to do. So if it's philanthropy, if it's spending more time with family, with friends, it's not being, tied down to any specific 9 to 5, which to me is a nightmare, right? So building the financial freedom allows you to have, again, personal freedom to do anything else you want to do in life. So
Absolutely.
I mean, we didn't talk about it before, but
it's part of your foundation.
passive income. Me.
Yeah,
passive income to me is very important.
Even though it's that Seinfeld episode when they say master of knowing does not refer to financial freedom.
Of course,
that's not what they're talking about.
It's not what they're talking about.
Just want to put that out there.
Jerry, a master of my domain, or something to that effect. But yes, that's great.
All right, Eyal, where can people learn about you? Where can people get involved? I know if you have a plug, where's it going to be?
I don't plug.
No, but not about you. Let's talk about this.
Yeah. The philanthropy side. Yeah, on the business side, again, I mean, I do investing in startups. I do have a small fund called Pulsar Ventures out of Israel that we do in small seed and pre-seed investments into startups, and we like to mentor those startups also. We give away a prize, a part of the prize that we give away every year at the AdTech track at the Tel Aviv University. There's a competition, and we're involved in giving away $100,000 prize every year. So
amazing.
That's always fun. You can find me, Eyal Yechezkell, on the professional side on LinkedIn. I'm not very active on social. It drains a lot of my day. So I try not to spend too much time on or trying to make my social profile, bigger than it is. I'm perfectly happy just seeing some of the content, and that's it. On the philanthropy side, near and dear to me, obviously, is the Israeli American Council. Again, I do most of my philanthropy work with that organization. If anybody wants to donate or want to learn more, I think it's israeliamerican.org online, or reach out to me. Very easy to find. It's a very unique name. When you Google Eyal Yechezkell, you're not going to find that many. Probably I'm the first one that pops up. So
yeah. You're unique.
So,
we'd love to have Mary Adelson on the podcast.
We can maybe make that happen. We'll definitely ask. Hopefully, I might get to see her soon. There's she's been very, very active and been amazing. The whole Adelson family, obviously, has been.
They're the big
amazing.
Adelson, Sheldon Adelson.
Yeah.
It's good that one of the richest people in history.
Probably the most generous, families.
I still don't know who they are.
If it wasn't, there's a lot of donors and people that supported the IC when it first started. I think it's today the largest or the fastest growing Jewish nonprofit, not-for-profit.
It's APAC and IAC is right under it.
So
JNF is under that.
But a lot of it is because of the commitment of the Edel Sins. Sheldon, obviously.
She just brought about
and Miriam that
from Mark Cuban.
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
give me a sports reference.
They're great, and
give me a sports
we'll
reference.
try to make the connection.
I would love
it'd be great if she, she joins the
she'd be amazing.
The podcast.
I got to get a nicer office. All right, hey Eyal, thanks so much for coming. Really appreciate all that you do and all that you do for Jews and educating and trying to change the world. As we said, there's a broom. The world's a mess. We need a broom and a shovel, and you have no problem picking it up. And you've been doing that for everybody. And the mentorship and education that you do for people who are underserved and need mentors and really don't have anybody else to turn to. I know you always donate your time, and it's not just about giving money, but it's an amazing thing you do. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure.
Bye, everybody.
I had a blast. Thank you.